In today's day and age, reading quickly is like an absolute superpower. First of all, it's going to help you read more books for self improvement, and it's going to let you get through those books a lot faster, and it's going to let you read a lot more of them and therefore accumulate more knowledge. But also, if you go to school, like I do, which I assume you probably do, then you probably have a lot of reading homework. And personally, I hate reading homework because it takes so much time. Like something like math, it's like get good at math and you can do it quickly, right? But with reading, it's like, oh God, I have to read all of these pages and pages, and it's for me it's the most annoying thing. But when I learned to read faster, it was an absolute revelation because then I could just blaze through the homework, and finally I wasn't trapped. My day wasn't confined by the amount of reading homework that I was getting from my teacher. And it was so liberating for me because I'm like, finally, this homework isn't driving me nuts. And if that sounds great, well, then I'm going to share with you right now the fastest and easiest actionable tip to instantly increase your reading speed. And I'm not going to say, oh, use this website online called Speed Reading Trainer that's going to train your speed and progressively overload you to read faster and faster and do whatever. You don't have time for that. Like, maybe that's going to be useful, and maybe I should invest in that too if I'm looking for the long term. But for now, it's not going to have any short-term impact on your reading speed. So I'm going to present to you something really simple that you can try out right now. And that is using some sort of tracker to point through what you're reading. And you might be like, what do you even mean? Well, let's say take a pen, right? And whatever you're reading, just like as you're reading it, follow what you're reading with the pen, right? So whatever word you're on, that's the word the pen's pointing to, and you just go through. Oh, is the camera reversing it? So maybe you'd go through this way. But from my point of view, it would be this way, right? But as you're reading, you get the point. As you're reading with that pen, you're just going to be tracking like where you're at in the book, and you're going to be looking at that pen. And you're like, what even is that going to do? Well, it's going to do a few things. First of all, your eyes are not actually really good at smoothly tracking things. As in, it can track things really well, but on its own, like right now, if you try to move your eye from this side to this side, you go from here to here, right? And do it really smoothly. I dare you to try. Like, I don't know if you looked at my eyes there. I'll try it again. Your eye is really bad at it, and even if you don't realize it as you try the exercise, it like stops one point at another. It's like your eyes move at 2 FPS, right? Now I want you to try the same thing, but have your finger here, and I want you to follow your finger. So I'm gonna do it like this, and suddenly the eye movement and the motion was super smooth and crystal clear. And suddenly it was like, instead of before it was like at 4 FPS going from here to here, now it was like 60 FPS, 100 FPS. It's like totally smooth. It looks great. Why? I mean, I'm not a eye scientist. I'm not a doctor. What is an eye doctor called? Am I stupid for this? I don't know what it's called, but I don't know the science behind it, but I'm assuming it's because our eyes like to track objects, and when we're just trying to move our eyes on their own, it's like our body's not really good at doing that. It tries to stop at things, but when we're tracking our finger, it's able to track that the whole way, and that makes it easier. So that way, when you use that pen, it's firstly going to help your eyes move a lot smoother and at that speed. Secondly, you can control the speed at which you read at using that, right? Because here's the thing. The problem is if you just try to increase your reading speed while using your eyes normally, what what I just demonstrated will happen. Instead of reading all of the words, you will like your eye will stop here, 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 here. Instead of going like that, smoothly across all the words, it's gonna be like taking like different points, spots, missing like half of what's in between. So you can't bump up the speed very easily. And at that point, you just be like skimming through the book, which is not really reading it. You're just skimming through it, right? So with the pen, what that allows you to do is you're allowed to totally regulate your speed. However fast you move your hand with that pen or that tracker, it could be your finger. You can use your finger if you don't have a pen, right? However fast you move that is however fast you're going to read. It's that simple. Speed it up, you're going to read faster. And yes, maybe, okay, like there's a limit. You can't go like move it super, super fast and still keep up. But that'll increase with practice, I guess. And even still, it's going to be really hard for you to even move your finger that fast to reach that limit. You'll be surprised how fast your eyes can go as long as you give it a little warm-up. And I'm going to tell you what this warm-up does, which leads us to the third point of why using your fingers or an eye tracking point to read is so great. So basically, if you've done any research on how to read faster, you've heard the most common advice is to remove this inner voice per se, that for a lot of people, whenever they read, they almost kind of narrate it to themselves. And so, if I was reading a book where it says, Mary had a little lamb, right? And I was reading that to myself with my eyes, the speed I would move along through that would be, I would look at it and like move at this speed. Mary had a little lamb. Like in my head, I would narrate inside of my head and say, Mary had a little lamb. Like I wouldn't say it out loud, but like I was kind of narrating every word in my head as I read along. And if you know anything about reading out loud, you know it's not very fast. If I can only read at the speed of Mary had a little lamb, that's not a very high speed to be reading at. So what they say is, don't narrate it in your head. Just let the words pour in directly to your brain without getting stuck in any thought first. And you're like, what does that even mean? Like, how can you absorb the meaning of the word without thinking about what the word is, right? You're like, but it's not like that, right? If you've seen any of those, I used to get these shorts where it's like, how fast can you read? And it pops up these words in your face and you're trying to keep up with like the increasing word speeds. When you do that, you're not narrating it in your head. Like if I showed you like the words Mary had a little lamb in like sequence, but really, really fast, your brain, and if I said I asked you what it said, you would still be able to say, oh, it said Mary had a little lamb, even though you didn't narrate it in your head. And getting to achieve this just normally with your eyes is really difficult. You probably were like, how would I do this in real life? But when you use a tracker and you just go through and speed up gradually, you get to a point where you can't narrate each word one by one. At which point your brain will automatically on its own kind of switch to just absorbing the words as they come and just letting the pen or the tracker dictate the way rather than trying to narrate and go at the speed that you would read it out loud at. So that's it. I mean, I gave you this explanation, but if it wasn't for the explanation, it's as simple as, hey, just use this pen tracker to read through. And that's all there is to it. Suddenly your reading speed has increased by maybe 1.5 times or maybe 2 times, depending on how well you use this technique and how little you used it before. But just because you made it this far into the video, I actually have a bonus tip for you. You see, a while ago I stumbled upon this post that had the words arranged in a particular format where the first 2 letters of each word was bolded, right? And the text said, oh, when it's like this, you can read it a lot faster. And I read through it and I'm like, whoa, I just read so much faster. And I showed it to all my friends and they're like, whoa, I just read that paragraph so fast. And I was like, I need a way to do this. And unfortunately, you can't do this in books or Kindles as far as I'm aware. But if you're trying to read an article online, there's actually Chrome extensions. I use this one called Jiffy Reader, Jiffy Reader, and it automatically, for all the words, like bolds the first bit of it, and somehow that makes you a lot faster at reading. I think it's because your brain can just see the first two letters and only glance at the rest, and it can assume what the word means. Your brain is so smart, it actually doesn't need to see the full word to understand what word it is. So somehow when you bold the first part of it, you tell the brain, hey, we don't need the extra stuff, and it's able to speed through that reading. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys. If you found it useful, please make sure to like and subscribe, the usual stuff, and I will see you next time.